Welcome to Cheater Fallout. Let us get started with today's story. She said another man's name with my hands still on her, and then she yawned. That's the part I keep coming back to. Not the name, the yawn. The way she reached over, clicked off the lamp, and told me to stop making it weird. Like I was the strange one for flinching when my wife of 9 years called me by the name of the man she used to love. My name is Daniel. Her name is Renee. And that Friday night, in the dark of a bedroom I paid for, she handed me the truth by accident and then dared me to do nothing with it. We'd built something that looked solid from the outside. 2 kids, a mortgage, a driveway with 2 cars in it, a calendar full of school runs and grocery lists, and the small negotiations that hold a marriage together. Our daughters were at my mother's for the weekend, and the house was quiet in a way it almost never was. We opened a bottle of wine. We laughed at something dumb on TV. For 1 hour, it felt like the early years, before everything got scheduled. So when we went upstairs, I wasn't guarded. I had no reason to be. And then, right at the moment a person is supposed to be the most present they'll ever be, she breathed out a name that wasn't mine. Marcus. Clear. Certain. Not a slip of a tired tongue, a name she reached for. My whole body went cold. I pulled back and looked at her. And for half a second her eyes were wide. Caught. Before the shutters came down. "Did you just call me Marcus?" I asked, and I kept my voice flat, because some instinct told me the calmer I stayed, the more I'd see. She sighed like I'd ruined the evening. "Daniel, don't. It's not a thing." "Not a thing," I repeated. "You said your ex's name." "In bed." She rolled onto her side and pulled the blanket to her chin. "It happens," she said. "People mix names up. You're being dramatic. Go to sleep." And that was it. She turned her back to me, and her breathing slowed, and within minutes she was asleep. Actually asleep. While I lay there staring at the ceiling, with my heart pounding for a reason I couldn't name yet. Because here's the thing nobody tells you. You don't fall apart in that moment. You go quiet. Something inside me sat down, folded its hands, and started paying attention. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just knew. The way you know a storm is coming from the color of the sky, that nothing about tomorrow was going to look like yesterday. The next morning she was humming, actually humming, flipping pancakes, phone face down by the stove. And when I walked in, she smiled at me, like the night before had never happened. "You okay?" she asked, and there was a little laugh in it, like she was checking whether I'd let it go. I sat down across from her. "I want to talk about last night," I said. Her smile thinned. "Daniel, I told you, it was nothing. It was a slip. You called me by his name," I said. "At the one moment a person can't fake where their head is. I think I've earned more than a shrug." She turned back to the pan. "It's not that deep," she said. "You always do this. You take something small and you build a courtroom around it." I noticed the phone then. The way she'd angled it away. The way her thumb kept drifting to flip it further from my line of sight. "Are you talking to him?" I asked. Simple. Direct. Her jaw twitched. It was small, but I saw it. "No," she said, too fast. "Why would I? God, you're insecure." And there it was. Not a denial. An attack. She'd learned somewhere that if she made me the problem, she'd never have to answer the question. Any other week it might have worked. But something had already shifted in me. And the more she pushed, the calmer I got. I didn't need to win the argument. I needed the truth. And I realized she was never going to hand it to me across a plate of pancakes. So I stopped asking. That was my first real decision. I stopped fighting for an answer she'd never give, and I started watching for the one she'd let slip. For 3 days, I was the easiest husband alive. I made coffee. I complimented her hair. I asked about her day, and I listened. And she relaxed. Because to her, my calm meant I'd given up. Her guard came down 1 notch at a time. She got careless. On the 3rd night, she left her old tablet charging on the kitchen counter and went up to shower, and when I brushed against it, the screen woke up. I want to be honest about this part, because it matters to me. I didn't crack a password. I didn't dig through a locked drawer. The thing was already signed in, and a message notification was sitting right there on the screen, the way a splinter sits right at the surface of your skin. The name on it was Marcus. I opened it. The newest message from her said, "6 more weeks and I'm free. Just keep being patient." His reply underneath it said, counting the days, "We're almost there." My hands didn't shake. That surprised me. I scrolled, and the whole architecture of my marriage rearranged itself in front of me. Months of it. Her telling him I was a good roommate but a dead husband. Her promising she just needed the timing right, so the split would look clean and she'd come out ahead. The two of them planning a summer, an apartment, a fresh start, with my daughters written into it like furniture that would come along. And then I found the thing that changed the whole shape of the story. Because I kept scrolling, past her side of it, into his. And Marcus wasn't the man she thought he was either. Buried in the thread was a message he'd sent to her by mistake, forwarded from a chat with someone named Alicia. A message meant for that other woman, full of the same promises. The same were almost there, the same counting the days. My wife was betraying me for a man who was, at that very moment, betraying her. She thought she was leaving me for a great love. She was leaving me for a con. I sat with that for a long time. I could have walked upstairs and thrown the tablet on the bed and watched her whole world crack, but I didn't want the explosion. I wanted the exit, so I did the boring, careful thing. I emailed every screenshot to myself, plugged the tablet back in, laid it exactly where she'd left it, angled exactly as she'd left it, and went to bed beside her like nothing had changed. She kissed my shoulder in her sleep. I let her. The next day I called two people. My sister Claire, who works as a paralegal and knows how these things actually go, not how they feel, and my oldest friend, Theo, who has never once in his life told me what I wanted to hear. Claire looked at the screenshots and got very quiet. "The house is yours," she said. "You bought it before the marriage. That matters." Her messages show intent, and they show she took the girls somewhere she lied about. Document all of it. Don't touch her, don't threaten her, and do not tip your hand. Theo just read the thread, set the phone down, and said one sentence I'll never forget. "Stop trying to save someone who's already packed." And he was right. She wasn't in the marriage anymore. She'd just forgotten to tell her body, which is why the name came out. So I stopped saving it. A week later, she floated the thing I'd been waiting for. "A work retreat," she said over dinner. "Just the weekend. Team building, a hotel by the office, nothing exciting." She said it lightly, testing the surface. I nodded and asked which hotel, and she told me. And I said, "Sounds boring. Have fun." That night, while she showered, I opened the tablet one more time, and there it was, Marcus writing. Finally a whole weekend, no sneaking. Feels like a preview of the real thing. And her reply, "Our first test run." Test run. She had a phrase for the life she was going to build on the wreckage of mine. That was the last piece I needed. Friday morning, she rolled a small suitcase to the door and said, "Try not to fall apart without me." I told her I'd manage, and I kissed her cheek, and I watched her car pull out of the driveway I paid for. The second it turned the corner, I made 3 calls. A moving company, 1 bedroom of clearly labeled belongings, ready today. A locksmith, every exterior lock, this afternoon, and a photographer friend, because Claire told me to document the condition of everything before it left the house, so no one could ever say I damaged a thing. Then I went upstairs, and I sorted our life into 2 piles with a stack of sticky notes. I touched only what was hers. Her clothes, her shoes, the makeup she loved, the jewelry box, the little desk in the corner she used for her remote work, the shelves she'd filled with candles and plants and framed photos of a family she was already planning to leave. I labeled every piece. No damage, no spite, just the truth, made physical. When the movers arrived, the foreman scanned the notes and asked if everything tagged was going. "Everyone," I said. "It belongs to my wife. She's moving in with someone, and I'm just helping her get there a little early." He didn't say anything, but the corner of his mouth moved. Box by box, they carried her out. I gave them Marcus's address, apartment number and all. Straight from the messages she thought were private, and on the very last box, I taped an envelope. Inside, 1 line on 1 sheet of paper. "You said mistakes happen. So here's mine." By late afternoon, the house felt lighter, like a held breath finally let go. The locksmith finished at 5. At 6:15, my phone lit up. Unknown number. Then her. I answered, and she was screaming before the phone reached my ear. "Daniel, why is all my stuff piled up outside Marcus's building? Why are there boxes on the sidewalk?" I leaned on the counter, calm as still water. "Because that's where you were moving anyway," I said. "I just saved you the trip. She called me every name she had. Then she demanded I bring a truck up and undo it. Fix it, right now. No, I said. Everything is exactly where you kept trying to put yourself. Talk to Marcus. And I hung up, and I turned my phone face down, and for the first time in weeks, I made myself a real dinner. 10 minutes later, Marcus called me himself. I answered pleasantly. What is this? He snapped. Renee's crying on my steps, and Alicia is losing her mind up here. And I almost laughed, because he just told on himself. Alicia. The other woman he was stringing along the same way. Check your messages, I said, before you pick a side. What messages? He said. And I forwarded him the screenshot of the note he'd sent Renee by mistake, the one meant for Alicia. The line went very quiet. Then I heard a woman's voice rise in the background, sharp and disbelieving, reading it out loud. You told her the same things you told me. Something hit a wall. Then the call dropped, and I understood that I hadn't blown up one relationship that evening. I'd blown up 2 lies that deserved it. And I hadn't had to lift my voice once. The next hour was a parade. Renee's mother, Diane, called to tell me I'd humiliated her daughter. I said her daughter humiliated herself the night she called me Marcus in our bed. And Diane went silent, and then told me all men are the same and hung up. Renee showed up at 11 and pounded on the door hard enough to rattle the frames. And when I opened it, she tried to push past me. And I stood in the doorway and did not move. Let me in. This is my house, she said. It's the house you were planning to leave, I said. Your things are with the man you were leaving me for. She said she'd made one mistake. I said she made months of them, and the name was just the one she couldn't hide. Her eyes filled, and I watched closely because I wanted to see if it was regret. It wasn't. It was rage that she'd been caught. This isn't over, she hissed. I looked at her, and I felt nothing but a strange, level calm. Yes, I said. It is. Then she tried the war of story. The next morning, she posted a long, tearful paragraph online about a cold husband who threw her into the street over one honest mistake. No mention of Marcus. No mention of the 6 weeks. The test run, the plans. People she barely knew rushed in to hold her up. Stay strong. He'll regret it. But one woman asked a simple question in the comments. What was the mistake exactly? And Renee never answered. I stayed silent right up until the 3rd time she publicly called me abusive. Then I wrote one sentence under her post. She called me by her ex's name during intimacy and had been planning to leave for months, and I have the messages. That was all. No insults, no essay, just the truth, sitting there. By that afternoon, her comments had cooled into a different kind of silence. Someone messaged me privately asking if it was real, and I sent 3 screenshots. And they never wrote back. Then it reached my job, because she'd emailed my workplace claiming I might cause a scene. HR called me careful and neutral, and I told them I was at my desk and happy to send documentation of what was actually going on, if it would help. They didn't want it. The offer alone told them everything. My manager pulled me aside later and just said, "Handle your life. You're fine here." That night I met the lawyer Claire trusted, a man named Ellis with a plain office and no interest in drama. I laid it all out. The messages, the move, the lie about the retreat, the girls. He read for a while, then set the pages down. You're in an unusually strong position, he said. The home is yours. The evidence is documented, and the children's stability is on your side. Do not get emotional. Do not retaliate. Just keep being exactly this consistent. There's one more thing, I said, and I told him she'd taken our daughters to Marcus's building weeks earlier, and told them it was a friend's place. His pen stopped moving. Write that down tonight, he said. Every detail you remember. That is not small. 2 weeks later, we stood in a family courtroom. Renee walked in dressed for the part. Soft blouse, hair pinned back, the picture of a wronged mother, and she looked at the judge like sympathy was a role she'd rehearsed. Her lawyer opened with a story about a devoted caregiver, blindsided and cast out of her home over a misunderstanding. Ellis didn't flinch. When it was our turn, he stood and laid it out flat. Your Honor, we have written evidence of a months-long relationship with her ex-partner, planned before the incident, including her stated intent to leave once she believed she could secure a better financial outcome, messages showing she took the children to his residence under a false story, and proof she fabricated a work retreat to spend a weekend with him. He set the screenshots on the desk. Renee whispered, "Oh my God," under her breath. The judge, an older woman with a still, unhurried face, read every page. Then she looked up. Did you call your husband by another man's name during intimacy? She asked. It was a slip, Renee said. Did you say to him, quote, "It happens," the judge asked? Renee didn't answer. Did you take your children to this man's apartment? A pause. Yes, but. Did you tell him you were counting down the months until you could leave your husband? Renee's mouth opened and nothing came out. That's enough, the judge said gently and turned to me. Temporary primary custody to the father, effective today. Scheduled visitation for the mother. The home remains his. Review in 90 days. But I see no reason to disrupt these children. Renee's face came apart. Her lawyer started to speak and the judge raised one hand. This is not punishment, she said. This is protection. In the hallway, Renee spun on me. You destroyed everything, she said, over one slip. I looked at her, and I finally said the truest thing I knew. You ended it the night you said his name, I told her. I just stopped pretending I hadn't heard it. She stared at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I always had been. To her, 6 months went by. The house breathes differently now. The mornings with my daughters are loud and easy. Pancakes and cartoons and arguments about socks. And no one hides a phone, and no one whispers behind a closed door. Renee lives across town in a small rental with bare walls. She works full-time now. The thing she always said she didn't have the space for. Marcus, it turned out, never left Alicia, and never planned to. The great escape Renee built her whole betrayal around was a story he was telling 3 women at once. Alicia found me online once just to say thank you, and to tell me I'd saved her a year of her life. I told her we were even, because her boyfriend's careless message had saved mine. One Thursday, Renee texted, asking to take the girls on Christmas morning. Just this once, they miss waking up with me. I read it twice. The custody agreement, written by her own lawyer, gave her Christmas Eve until 6. We'll follow the schedule, I wrote back. She replied instantly. Stop using the kids against me. I didn't answer, because the kids were never the weapon. They were the only thing in the whole mess I refused to bargain with. A few nights later, drying off after a bath, my younger daughter asked if I still loved Mommy. I thought about it, because she deserved a real answer. I love that she's your mom, I said. But not the way I used to. She nodded like that made complete sense, the way kids do, and went to find her sister. On Christmas morning, we made pancakes and opened presents and watched the same movie 3 times, and the house felt entirely, finally mine. Late that night, closing the curtains, I thought about the exact second everything changed. A single name, breathed out in the dark, and then a yawn, and then the nerve to tell me I was the one making it weird. She thought she'd said nothing. She'd said everything, and here's what I've learned since. In this house now, when someone says my name, they mean it, and they're looking right at me when they do. That turned out to be all I ever wanted. Thank you for watching. Until the very end, wishing you happiness, peace, and a wonderful day ahead.